IELTSspeaking.ca. Part 2 and 3 topic about an unusual holiday or vacation with model answers. Here is the Part 2 topic about an unusual holiday. And here are the Part 3 questions related to this topic. Later, I will give you Band 8 and 9 model answers to these questions. Fluency and coherence is 25% of your IELTS speaking score. To get a Band 7 or higher in this, you'll need to be able to speak at a good speed, not too slow or not too fast. You also need to connect ideas together well by using different kind of transition signals, signposting, and phrases. But don't do it too mechanically. And you'll have to develop responses and extend responses with examples, explanations, comparisons. Avoid repetition, hesitation, and long pauses as much as possible. This still can happen a little bit, and natural pauses are normal when thinking of content, but you don't want to do this too much. Another thing to do is to use referencing. This means that you're referring to an idea in a different way, so you're not using the exact same words all the time. Okay, now let's go back to the Part 2 model answer. And here is the model answer to this topic. I tend to believe that all holidays are meant to be unusual because we, perhaps due to our curious nature, are always looking for something different than what normally happens in our everyday life. But let me tell you about something that is probably different than what many people would think of. It was a camping trip. This happened a couple of summers ago. My family decided to visit a national park that has some camping grounds for people to pitch tents in. We loaded up our tents and gear and drove off a few hours west of my hometown. Its location was in a well-protected wooded area that is a small hike from a nice blue water lake. We did so many things there that we couldn't do in the city. And I was so grateful that our time was never distracted for the silence and our smartphones not getting a signal. Before going there, I was a little bit intimidated by the thought of it. I was thinking of biting insects spoiling my time in the great outdoors. But my father, who has a lot of experience, knew what to do to protect us. Okay, let me get back to what we did there. At night, the most fun I had was building a campfire, roasting some marshmallows, and singing some campfire songs. Oh, and in the day, there were a lot of hiking trails to explore on. But I enjoyed the beach the most. It was so peaceful to sit and look out towards a nice crystal clear lake. Of course, I occasionally jumped in to cool off from the warm summer weather. I did get a bit of a tan, but I wasn't burnt. Thank goodness for sunscreen. That trip was one wonderful experience that I'll never forget. And I do think of it as my most unusual holiday because I never did anything like that before. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Here is some Part 2 vocabulary from the response that you can use in future responses. Now, let's move on to Part 3. One way to improve fluency is to be able to speak faster, as that is one element of it. At home, when you're practicing, you can do the 2-to-1 approach, which means in the very beginning, you're using twice as long to say what you really want to say on the exam. And after practice, you'll be able to say things twice as, or just as much things in half the amount of time. So for example, if you took 1 minute to talk about an answer, you want to work towards saying the similar amount of content in half a minute. This will help to increase your speed. It's also recommended to use a recorder to record your responses, and you should pay attention to how often you're hesitating, repeating, pausing, etc., and pay attention to improve those elements of your fluency. Here again are the Part 3 questions related to holidays or vacations. And now, here are Band 8 and 9 model responses for them. In my country, there is no shortage of beautiful landscapes and unique places for locals to explore. In the West, there are a lot of incredible natural wonders to see. One amazing spot out there is Banff, which is a picturesque town that is surrounded by some of the most beautiful scenery, including snow-capped mountains, sparkling lakes, and alpine meadows. On the other side of the country, some holiday goers like to see some of the oldest settlements that contain nice colonial architecture. The list is endless. In most instances, students seem to really benefit by having a lot of holiday time, as they have long summer holidays and breaks on major holidays, especially at Christmas and New Year's time. There is a law in my country that allows all workers to be entitled to at least 2 weeks of paid holiday each year. This doesn't include getting time off for national holidays, which often means having a long 3-day weekend almost once per month as well. So I guess that most people have a fair amount of downtime, but students and workers with seniority tend to have it better. The thing is that I don't travel that much, so I'm not quite sure. But I suppose that it depends on the individual and their attitude towards travel. If they are not willing to immerse themselves by talking to the locals, not trying their food, nor being open to differences, then they won't get much of a cultural experience. However, those who are ready to partake in authentic activities will likely gain some appreciation towards the culture. When thinking about the differences between the two age groups, I assume that it has something to do with economic status, health, and possibly even values. Young adult travelers are usually full of energy, fearless, and looking for a fun time. So it's not unusual for them to stay in cheap accommodation and want to visit lively hot places that are full of chances to meet other fellow travelers. Seniors, on the other hand, have seen it all before, and because of their wealth and physical stamina, they tend to avoid hassles and travel at quieter periods, and stay at places that offer more conveniences. Unfortunately, tourism can cause a whole bunch of issues to the environment. In coastal areas, for example, an increase in the use of ships can pollute the water and cause damage to coral reefs and sea life. It can also cause enormous stress on local land use, which can lead to soil erosion and a loss of natural habitat. It's all really quite a shame to see once beautiful places being wrecked. I don't recall ever thinking about this before, but I expect that educating visitors will be useful. If information in the form of message boards or pamphlets were given to tourists, then they'd be more informed and aware about how to minimize their impact on the environment. I also believe that ecotourism should be greatly promoted. This is a more sustainable way of travel that causes little to no damage, and at the same time helps to inform travelers about the importance of environmental protection. A win-win situation, right? Thank you for watching.